Good afternoon. Welcome to my 200th episode of the Food Enthusiast. Thank you for joining us. I'm Dara Bunjon. I'm the food enthusiast here at J Moore Living. I'm a food writer, food stylist, PR maven, and a frustrated baker. Those of you joining us live, drop your comments and questions into the comment box, and you'll see me turn from time to time to check and see. So if you have any questions for me or my guest or general comments, pop them in. We look forward to hearing from you. To celebrate this very special show, I needed to have a very special guest, and I was lucky enough to get Giuliano Hazan, cookbook author and culinary educator who has schools in Veneto, Tuscany, and Florida. He learned from the best and carries on her legacy, his mother, Marcella Hazan, the Diane of Italian cooking. Giuliana's first cookbook, the Classic Pasta Cookbook, sold 500,000 copies and received a James Beard nomination. And in 2007, the International Association of Culinary Professionals named him the Cooking Teacher of the Year. His cooking school has been ranked in the top 10 in the world by Food and Wine magazine. Let's bring in Giuliano.
Hello, Dara.
Hello, and I'll say ciao. I'm getting in the
Ciao.
mood. Ciao. Or if we're really friendly, ciao, ciao.
Okay. First
Uh,
of all, congratulations on your
Thank
200th
you.
show. That's fantastic, and I'm honored to be on it.
You are my very, very, very special guest. And folks, my friends will tell you
Okay.
I rarely drink, but to Juliana's good health and being on the show, and to me being here after 200 episodes. Juliana, what's on your plate today other than doing the show?
Today, just usual kind of catching up with correspondence and various things that are going on. I have a class on Saturday, so getting ready for that.
And
So
that class is here in Sarasota because you're just back from Italy. Tell us more about the classes and the villas and the classes you do in Veneto and in Tuscany. Fill us in.
So we started in 2000. So this is our 25th year. And we started in Valpolicella, which is the wine region outside of Verona in the Veneto. And we collaborate with Marilisa Allegrini, a wine producer. And the course is loosely based on what my mother started doing in Bologna in 1976. She was the first one really to do something like this, where people would come for a whole week and go on excursions and field trips to learn about various Italian food products such as Parmigiano Reggiano, olive oil, all these important ingredients that we use in Italian cooking, markets, and then in the evening there would be hands-on cooking classes, and so we do pretty much the same thing in our courses. We visit a market in Padova, which is one of the few really fabulous markets still remaining in Italy. Every city in Italy used to have a fabulous food market, and little by little they've been shrinking, unfortunately, and some of them have turned into mostly souvenir stands rather than
Right.
food stands, which is kind of sad. But Padova is one of the places that still has a thriving food market. And we also take people to visit a rice mill. This is an ancient rice mill that's been in operation since 1648. And a small percentage of their production is still done the same way as it was then, using a mortar and pestle system. And they're really the only ones still doing it in Italy. So it's pretty fascinating. Uh,
Well, I think I remember with all the things I read your mother's biography, Amarcord, and she was not a fan of equipment, like a
well, she
food
didn't
processor.
need, fancy equipment. She, the equipment that she used was really an extension of her hand. Uh, and I say hand because she really was only able to use one hand. Her right hand was crippled because of an accident she had when she was a little girl. In fact, she always used to tell her students that if she could do something with a hand and a half, then there was no reason why they couldn't do it.
Right. I want to tell everybody a little bit about your background because here in the States, you went to Swarthmore College and French was your major.
That's
And
right.
then you studied a repertory company. So acting and theater seems to be important to you, but how did you swing over to food? How did your mother bring you to the food side of the world?
Well, she didn't really do anything, but uh, food has always been important to me. Eating food, and I always like to watch my mother cook. But I thought I wanted to be in theater. I love the theater, and I wanted to work as a director, an actor, and so after college, I went to Trinity Rep Conservatory, which is a 2-year professional program. And at the end of that, uh, I realized that I really wasn't going to survive on, doing these little tours that I was doing for maybe $100 a week. That wasn't really going to work. And as I mentioned, my mother had started a school in Bologna, and I had been involved with that, helping out with that. In fact, I even started doing some of the teaching later on. So I decided to start doing some cooking classes in my spare time. And little by little, that became more and more what I was doing until that was my full-time thing. And I think that my theater background actually helped me with that, because if you think about it, teaching a class is a little bit of a performance. It's kind of like theater.
It is, and at least it made you more comfortable in front of people,
Hmm.
and imparting pearls of wisdom or pearls of pasta. Um, Talking about pasta, your first cookbook, um, let's see, I gotta find,
Classic pasta.
was the Classic Pasta Cookbook, which sold like a 500,000 copies, won numerous awards. The Classic Pasta Cookbook. What didn't we know about pasta that you informed us about in the book?
I don't know if it was so much about what you didn't know, but it was an original way of presenting uh, pasta dishes, because we had photographs both of the finished dish, but also of all the ingredients that went into the dish and how they were prepped and how they were cut. And I think that was one of the things that people really loved about the book.
Right,
And I
and that
also
yeah, go ahead.
emphasized in the book the importance of different pasta shapes for different sauces. It was something that my mother always used to teach. And so to organize the book uh, really based on pasta shapes, not necessarily, meat and fish and so forth.
Right. The, you know, the question is, do we twirl our spaghetti and our linguine? Do we slurp it? Um, to twirl or not to twirl? I twirl, but I don't do it on the spoon. I do it on the side of the plate.
Good.
Is
Yes,
that the proper way?
absolutely. Yes, if you're in Italy, uh, you don't want to use a spoon if you can avoid it. Yeah, it will not look good.
It would say tourist,
Exactly.
tourist,
So I
right?
think it's probably a combination of twirling and then a little bit of slurping too.
Yeah. Um, there's a phobia called misophonia. Have you
Oh,
ever heard of it?
no.
It's people who get annoyed at the sound of somebody eating.
Ah,
So slurping.
right, right. Well, there's different ways you can slurp. You can slurp more elegantly.
Okay. Well, we have to do diagrams of that in the next book.
Okay.
The I was counting your cookbooks and I came up with 5, but something else said 4. Is it 5
Or
books or 4?
five.
5. I
Yeah.
was right. Okay. So the classic pasta book, okay, where'd I put it? Wanted, Every Night Italian won World Cookbook Award, Best Italian Cookbook in English, 30-minute pasta. So that's 3. What other 2?
There was before 30-minute pasta, there was How to Cook Italian, which was a more comprehensive book with lots of technique, a whole chapter on how to equip your kitchen and what kind of tools I like to use, how to go shopping, and so forth. And then after that came 30-minute pasta, which the the concept with that was all pasta sauces that you could prepare more or less in the time that it took to boil the water and cook the pasta for them. And then
Um,
the last book was called the Hazan Family Favorites, which is just a collection of favorite recipes in the family.
which brings me to a question that's come in. It says, what's your favorite pasta dish?
So when I was a little boy, I don't know how old, I think maybe as young as 3 or 4. My parents left me with my grandmother, my mother's mother, in Cisinatico, which was my mother's hometown. And my grandmother was a very good cook as well. And one of the things that she made that I loved was what we used to call tortelloni, which are basically ravioli shaped filled pasta. And it's filled with either spinach or Swiss chard and ricotta and served with a simple tomato sauce. And apparently, she made that for me, and I ate uh, a generous adult-sized portion of it, and then proceeded to collapse on the table. And she was terrified. She called the doctor, and at that time they did
Right.
house calls. He came over and examined me and said, "He's happy. He's sleeping." So I think probably that dish is maybe still one of my favorite pasta dishes.
Okay, so another question. Is there an Italian equivalent to mac and cheese that's popular in the southern US?
I wouldn't say it's popular. Oh, sorry, I thought you meant Southern Italy. Uh, well, it's not a baked dish necessarily. It's what we call burro e formaggio, which is butter and cheese, with the cheese being Parmigiano Reggiano, sometimes maybe a little bit of cream. Uh, and my kids would always be very specific about differentiating between mac and cheese and burro formaggio. It was not the same thing.
So, um, you mentioned we had just a little chat before we went on air. For those people that are local in the Maryland area, um, Giuliano is going to be in St. Michael's the end of June for a Friday and a Saturday, or a Saturday or a Sunday.
Saturday and Sunday. It's at an Italian specialty store called Simpatico.
So we don't have it in the notes, but if you're going to be over to the shore going that way for 4th of July or make a special trip, check with Simpatico and St. Michael's and see if tickets are available. You don't want to miss this because he lives in Sarasota. I don't know how often he's going to get up to Maryland.
Right.
So it's a great opportunity. I want to talk about your classes a little bit more because your wife is very much involved with uh, the schools and also tourism. Doesn't she do a lot with tours and things of that nature?
She has a travel agency called Gracious Getaways, which she actually started because many of our students who had come to the courses in Italy were asking for assistance, with travel before and after and suggestions. And so she decided, well, maybe I should actually make a business of this,
Right.
and she did.
And they can follow her on Instagram, The Educated Palate. And anything you want to know about Giuliano is, if you know how to spell his name, just put a .com at the end of it. That's
Yes,
GiulianoHazan.com. The tours, classes, and if you're going to be down in Sarasota, Florida, check out. He does some classes down there. Um, let's, I can't remember. Your We just celebrated your mother's 100th birthday. She died 2013, was it?
yes, yes.
But your father, Victor's still alive?
He is. He's 95. Well, he likes to say he's 96
Oh, okay.
because he's in his 96th year.
Oh, okay. And your father, Victor, I think it was an interesting story. His family was from northern Italy, if I remember correctly, and then right before World War II, they immigrated to the United States.
That's right.
And he sort of grew up there and then decided to come back to Italy. And his family were Orthodox Jews, Sephardic.
Sephardic, yeah.
Yes.
I don't know about
Okay.
how Orthodox, but yeah.
Okay.
Maybe my grandmother more than my grandfather.
Okay. So we have that. He meets your mother. So he was a little bit younger, but he was gobsmacked by her, wasn't he?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit more about the romance. We don't want to do too much, folks, because there's a documentary film coming out, hopefully very soon,
This
but a
fall.
little bit about the story. Um, your mother had, as you said, a problem when she was a child, an accident, and she didn't have the very little use of one of her hands.
Right.
Her background, college, was science and sort of biology. I think she wanted to go into the growing of herbs and plants and flowers. Yes?
She ended up earning 2 doctorates at Italian universities, one in natural sciences and one in biology. And for one of them, her thesis involved fossils. So she was climbing the Dolomites looking for fossils for her thesis. And during that time, this was before my father. During that time, she wasn't all that interested in cooking. She did, in fact, she never cooked. She would be perfectly happy with a mortadella sandwich. I mean, she appreciated my grandmother's cooking, of course, but it wasn't an important thing in her life, and it became so only after she met my father, who, as she put it, could put up with a lot of things, but not a bad meal. And so that's when she started cooking, and she started cooking using both notes from this old notebook that I actually still have of notes from her mother and the dishes that she used to make, as well as a cookbook by Ada Boni. And I guess she discovered pretty quickly that it came naturally to her. She had an instinct for cooking, for flavors, for how to put them together, and so she really enjoyed cooking. She's
Yeah.
always enjoyed eating, and that's really how it started for her.
Well, I have the same thing. I enjoy cooking too. I
Okay.
enjoy eating.
Yes, and I heard
Um,
you say that you're a frustrated baker. I call
yes.
myself a reluctant baker.
You call
I,
her the reluctant baker?
and myself too.
Okay. Because it's a science. There's no a little of this, a little of that, and I'll
Yes, I
fix
would
it.
say, I don't like cooking things in the oven because I never know what's going on in there. You can't really open the lid and see what's going on and adjust things. It's much harder to do.
I have a cute story. Somebody asked me recently about how to do a cheesecake and not have a crack at the top.
Mm,
And I said, well, you bake it in a water bath.
yes, I
And
hate.
I said, and when you turn off the oven, you just sort of prop like a wooden spoon between the door and the oven and let it cool slowly.
Mm.
Well, she told me, she says, no crack on the top. She put the wooden spoon in and left it there, went back to it 2 hours later and realized she never turned off the oven.
Uh-oh.
So these things have happened to all of us. I'm getting a question, and this question is, what was your favorite recipe of your mother's, not your grandmother's?
I don't know. I mean, it always irritated my mother when people asked her what her favorite recipe was. I don't think, there was. It really depended on what she felt like eating at the time, or
Right?
really mostly what the market, which inspired her to cook, what she found that seemed appealing.
Well, we do have a comment from somebody who says, my mother made an Italian dish when I was little called SpaghettiOs.
Okay.
Well, I want to get back to the Washington Post just did a huge article on your mother, which would have been her 100th birthday. And a lot of her cooking equipment and your grandmother's cooking equipment has now gone into the Smithsonian for display, along with like Julia Child's kitchen and around there. I'm trying to think, what do they call that division of the Smithsonian?
uh,
I'm
food,
looking. I wrote it down. It's
food.
American history.
Well, it
Smithsonian
is the American
National
History
Museum
Museum.
of
Yeah,
American History. All right,
yeah.
folks. I know I have things written down. It's just finding them. Um, I found it interesting, if I'm correct in what I was reading. Everybody knows a Julia Child. She brought French food to America. Your mother started doing cooking classes out of your apartment kitchen.
Hmm.
Was it Craig Claiborne or was it James Beard who asked her to write or do an article for the New York Times that sort of
Craig,
launched
Craig
this?
Claiborne.
Craig Claiborne. Okay. So I have that established. When she went to do the cookbook, we know there's Julia Child French food. Marcella is considered, the Julia Child of Italian food. Didn't she have the same editor, Judith Jones, who did her
Eventually,
first
yes.
book?
Yeah, not initially. Initially, her first book was published by Harper's Magazine Press, um, but they didn't do a particularly good job of marketing it, of packaging it, and it was Julia Child who uh, recommended that my mother speak with Judith Jones,
Yeah.
and Judith bought the rights to the book and republished it under Knopf.
Well, she was one keen lady editor. I had the privilege. I actually sat at a dinner next to her. Everybody was Marion Cunningham. It's a long story. So everybody wanted to be near her. I was next to Judith, and for those people who don't know, Judith is the one who found the transcript for the Diary of Anne Frank, Julia Child, Marcel Hazan, Hiroko Shimbo, which is like the Japanese to Japanese food, what Julia was. So much. We have, if people want to learn more about Marcella, if you don't already know, her biography is Amicord, and you can find that. There is a film project. How did that film project come about? I believe it's being directed by Emmy and Peabody Award winner Peter Miller. Uh, Tell me more about the process of the film, the documentary.
So, quite a few years ago, this was actually before COVID, Peter got in touch with me and asked me, what I thought about the idea of doing a documentary about my mother. And I thought that would be fantastic. Apparently, he and his wife had attended a class that she had done in Connecticut, at Heyday in Connecticut, and had been cooking from her book ever since. And so I said, yes, absolutely. Put him in touch with my father. And that's how it all started. And then COVID came, so everything stopped for quite a long time. And then he started up again. And now the movie is completed. It's
Oh, it
finished.
is
Yes.
fabulous.
And so it's supposed to be coming out this fall. We don't know exactly when or where the premiere will be yet, but it does have they've gotten a distributor, which means it'll have a limited theatrical release as well, and then go into the various streaming services.
Right. Um, I'm excited about that. I want to tell people and let you know that before I moved from the house and moved to the apartment, I had well over 300 cookbooks.
Hmm.
I would sell some off at different times. I was addicted to Jessica's Biscuits going back a number of
Oh yeah.
years. People remember that catalog. Come out, which one can I order? Yada, yada, yada. Many autographed copies. I've had the pleasure of meeting people, great culinarians over the years. And somebody reached out to me because I usually sell them. They said, "Are you selling your whole collection?" I said, "Wasn't my goal. Don't sell any. I want to buy all your books." Now, I would never recoup what I laid out in these cookbooks, but I said to him, "I'll sell you all the books except for 10."
Hmm.
And I picked out 10 that meant the most to me.
Yeah.
And this book is the Bible. People, the simple tomato sauce with butter and onions.
Yeah.
Superb.
That's what went with the tortelloni, that filled pasta that
Your grandmother made.
yes.
There's nothing like butter and tomatoes and onion.
Mm-hmm.
It's simple, and then you can do your variations from there. Thank you to
That sauce
Angel.
is actually a good example of how my mother would put flavors together and dishes together, because the way you make the sauce is the onion is simply peeled and cut in half, and it stews in the tomatoes. It's not chopped or sliced, and it's not sauteed or anything like that. And my mother, thought, well, I want the sauce. I mean, I want the real pure sweet flavor of the tomato. Uh, and I want the flavor of the onion, but I don't want that flavor of the sauteed onion, which would overpower it. So that's why she decided that the onion shouldn't be sauteed at all. It should simply stew with the sauce.
It is a classic, and the bolognese is a
Mhm.
classic. Not that the other ones aren't classics, but when you speak of morcella, you speak about the simple tomato sauce, you talk about the bolognese. Um, and she spoke what was on her mind. She didn't kowtow to anyone. It was her view, and she would write the recipes in Italian, folks, and her husband, Victor, would translate it and help write. And your father wanted to be a writer to begin with, way back when, everything. And so I think that just it was a perfect marriage in many ways. And he became very renowned for his knowledge of wines
Mhm.
and created his own lane that way. Um, I'm just checking my notes. I don't want to miss anything here. Uh, Everybody, it is giulianohazan.com, Instagram, Educated Palate. The movie is Marcella Film, and you can find that. And all the links will come up through Giuliano's website, anything that you want to know, and he'll get back to you if you have any questions. There's so much. Your mother believed cooking is based in common sense. It's just important, she said, it's just as important to leave something out as it is to put something in.
Mhm.
Um, so much, so much. And I'm sitting here going, oh, I want to do this. Um, all right. So people, this book is still, it is a compilation of a couple of her books plus new recipes. And that's
It's actually
essentials.
a new edition of that book now.
Oh, there is?
Well, yes, they did a 30th anniversary edition last year. It's got a more colorful uh, cover to it, but it's the exact same book. So if you look
And
for essentials of a classic Italian cooking, like on Amazon, you won't necessarily find one that looks like that, but it's the same book, just
it's
with
the
a
same
different look.
one. Do you have a cookbook in the works, another one?
Well, we talk about that a lot, but I don't know. There's a possibility, but I'm reluctant. I have I have a lot of my mother's notebooks where she took notes whenever she would be traveling, looking for recipes and new ideas and so forth, and she would jot down ideas that way. And so I've collected a list of ideas that I think would be good recipes to do to try out.
Mm.
Um, but I haven't gotten much further than that.
You have two children. Is
Yeah,
it two girls or a girl and a boy?
two girls.
Two girls. Okay. Are either one of them interested in food, or they're going different directions?
Well, they're both interested in eating, but
Okay.
no, I don't think that either of them would make food a career. But
Okay.
my youngest is still in college, but my oldest has been living on her own for a while now, and she she always cooks every day for herself.
Okay. Another question's come in. Do you ever find that you need to run away from Italian food? If yes, what do you cook?
No, I would never feel that I need to run away from it. But I do like other cuisines. Probably, perhaps my favorite, other than Italian, might be Japanese. But I would go out for Japanese rather than make it myself. And I also like other Asian dishes, and occasionally have experimented with making those. Um, so
All right. So Um, let's sort of wrap up because I don't want to keep you too long, but I love to keep talking with you.
Happy
Uh,
chatting with you.
Pardon me?
I'm happy chatting with you.
Oh, thank you. L'chaim.
There you go. Salute.
Chin chin.
Chin chin.
Uh, Chin chin. Uh, if you wake up tomorrow morning with a new talent, what would that new talent be?
Gee, I don't know. I've always flirted with the idea of being a race car driver. Thought that would be fun. So,
Zoom, zoom.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I've not had a race car driver. I've had a lot of different answers to that question, but you're my first race car driver.
Okay, good.
If you can go back and give your 18-year-old self a piece of advice, what would it be?
Oh, that's a tough one. Um, I suppose it might be just to, follow my mother's footsteps in that she uh, she always was comfortable in what she believed and didn't feel the need to be swayed from that.
Okay. What was your ultimate culinary fail?
Mm. Well, I mean, it happens sometimes. Things just don't come out at all. I don't know about a specific one. Maybe I can think of a time during a cooking class when I was doing a tiramisu, and I assembled it and I gave it to uh, my assistant, and I said to uh, uh, put it in the cooler, and she ended up putting it in the freezer. So we had a brick by the end.
I mean,
Not intended.
not intended. I've a little bit about me. I have food style for cookbook authors as they've traveled around. That's really how I became friendly with Carrie Bachman. So they'd be on TV in DC and Baltimore, and I do a lot of prep. And I did the kitchen at the Washington Food and Wine Show. So I know what happens when I'm relying on other people and things go awry. And you sit there and you go, I'll make it work. I'll make it work. And you get it done, don't you? Yeah, as long as, they don't see you sweating, they don't know that there was an issue. Um, what's the best bite you've had all week?
Actually, found a new Japanese restaurant in St. Pete, uh, and it was a piece of salmon belly from New Zealand that was extraordinary. It melted in your mouth. It was luscious. It was
Fatty,
nice. Yes,
nice and fatty, good. Yep,
velvety.
yep. All right, I'm got to figure out what I'm going to do after the show's over because I'm hungry. Um, do I run up and get one of those lobsters on sale at ShopRite or not? Okay. My last question is always, what didn't I ask you that I probably should have?
uh, what's in the works?
Okay, what's in the works? Fill us in.
So we haven't actually announced this yet. So this is the first time that I'm mentioning this publicly.
Okay,
It's a
great.
fitting occasion. We're thinking of doing a third location in Italy, because now we have the one in the Veneto, which we started 25 years ago. We started a location in Tuscany about 5 or 6 years ago, and now we're working on possibly doing something in Piedmont, and hopefully that may be available at the end of next year.
Will Mira Lisa be involved with that one?
Not that one. No, she has properties in Tuscany, so the Tuscany school is also in collaboration with Maria Lisa Allegrini. But she she says that that's enough to keep her busy. So
Well, that sounds exciting. Um, I think it's great. I thank you so much for being part of my very special celebration here. And, when you get done, go get yourself a glass of something sparkling and you can toast me.
oh, absolutely. I've been watching you drink that.
So, thank you so much, Giuliano. Best regards, good health, and you'll hear my line at the end of the show is "May your plates always remain full." So, may I wish that to you as well. And I have a couple announcements. So,
Thank you very
thank
much for
you.
having me,
My
especially on your
pleasure.
200th show.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, everyone. Um, Next week's guest is Jan Berman. Jan has been cooking delicious, locally sourced meals on Martha's Vineyard for over 25 years. Her love of learning has evolved to food advocate and environmentalist as she teaches why it is vital that we know where our food comes from. She is known for her kitchen porch catering and the Dieto Way Health and Wellbeing organization. So do tune in next week. They're always exciting. My gratitude to my followers, audience who watch the show and comment and ask questions. Without you, there is no show. Thank you for sharing my passion for food and those who create within the hospitality and food community. I always appreciate it when you send in your questions or comments. You can reach me via email at food@jmoreliving. A special thanks to the folks at J Moore, to Jen and Griffin, who helped produce the show and get it on air. And we've been doing okay. I'll knock on wood. We haven't had any technical difficulties for the past 3 or 4 weeks. So my gratitude to them and to Alan Feller, the editor, and the other folks at J Moore. So thank you for supporting me. As I said, you can reach me via email at food@jmoreliving, or my Instagram is at Dara Cooks and on Facebook, The Food Enthusiast. I have a page there as well. All shows are immediately archived in video form on J More Living's Facebook page and jmoreliving.com. We truly appreciate it when you share our show with friends and family. May your plates always, always remain full. I toast you all. Have a great week.